Have we made a decision in the Willis case?
Your Honor, Miss Willis would like to enter a guilty plea under Alford if the court will accept it to count one.
I don't have a problem with it. State have any issues? All right, so the court will accept the plea under Alford versus North Carolina. Miss Willis, by entering a plea of guilty to count one under Alford, and counts 2 and 3 nolo, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things?
Yes.
All right, factual basis and recommendation, please.
Yes, Your Honor. On July 17th of 2022, an officer was dispatched to 6331 Terra Boulevard, Jonesboro, Georgia, where the incident occurred in Clayton County. It was in reference to a person stealing items from the Texaco gas station. Once the officer arrived, he arrived on the scene. He made contact with the manager. At that point, that was yelling, "That's her," and pointing to what was later identified as the defendant in this case, Miss LaShondra Willis. The manager advised that she had come into the store with her husband, and she had taken a Colt 45 beer and a bag of ice, and stated that her husband was going to pay for it, and continued to walk out of the store. Both of them walked out of the store without purchasing the items. When the officer asked for their names, the defendant gave the name of L. Malakia Mott, and no date of birth, because she was sovereign and 76 trillion years old. At that time, the suspects were taken into custody. The state is recommending for count 1, 12 months to serve, 90 days. Credit for the time the defendant has been in custody, the balance to be suspended pending no new violations of the law, and that the defendant does not return to the location of 6331 Terra Boulevard, Jonesboro, Georgia, which is a Texaco gas station. For count 2, 12 months to serve, 90 days. Credit for the time served, the balance to be suspended, to run concurrent with count 1. And count 3, 12 months to serve, 90 days. Credit for the time served, the balance to be suspended, also to run concurrent with count 1.
All right, Ms. Hahn.
Your Honor, as implied with the Alford plea and the NOLO plea, my client does not agree with the statement of facts. The name that she gave the police is a name that she calls herself. She does not agree with the police's facts that she stole a Colt 45. She says she does not drink. So I just wanted to place that on the record. Nevertheless, we ask that you accept the negotiated plea.
All right, that's why it's done under Alford versus North Carolina. All right, so I'm going to accept your plea. I'll sentence you to 12 months to serve, 90 days. Credit for time served. Balance will be suspended as long as you do not go back to 9331 Terra Boulevard, Jonesboro, Georgia, Clayton County, the Texaco station. Count 2 is 12 months to serve, 90 days. Credit for time served, balance suspended as long as you have no new violations of the laws of the state of Georgia. That will run concurrent with count 1. And count 3 is 12 months to serve, 90 days. Balance suspended. Credit for time served as long as you do not go back to the Texaco station at 6331 Terra Boulevard, Jonesboro, Georgia. All right, anything else?
No, Your Honor, that's it.
All right, thank you. You can go back with the sheriff's office, Miss Willis. Just don't go back to that location.
No problem. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am.
Your Honor, We are ready on Miss Mayo.
Raise your right hand for me, Miss Mayo. You solemnly swear or affirm any testimony you give in this matter will be true.
Say it again.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So, Miss Letitia Mayo, Letitia Denise Mayo, you're before the court on state of Georgia. I'm sorry, 2024 CR 00107, simple battery, family violence, and simple battery. Wasn't Miss Mayo just here?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Let me. What's her plea?
Your Honor, it's gonna be guilty to count 1, count 2 will merge.
By entering a plea of guilty, you give up the right to have a trial by jury or judge. You give up the right to have the state prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You give up the right to have the presumption of innocence in your favor. You give up the right to confront witnesses, subpoena witnesses, present testimony and evidence on your behalf, to not incriminate yourself or present any testimony or evidence against yourself. And if you're not a United States citizen, a plea of guilty or no contest could negatively impact your immigration status. Do you understand all of these things?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, factual basis recommendation, please.
Yes, Your Honor. On November 24th of 2023, an officer was dispatched to BRAXLEY in Jonesboro, Georgia, where the incident occurred in Clayton County. It was in reference to a domestic disturbance. When the officer arrived on the scene, he made contact with the victim, who advised that her daughter, Latia Mayo, the defendant, had hit her in the face. There was an altercation about food, and taking food out. The victim said that the defendant was being irate for the whole day prior to the altercation occurring, being just disrespectful to everyone in the household and having tantrums. The officer also spoke with the defendant, who advised that she did not hit her in the face. The officer advised the defendant of the consequences for the particular altercation, and then took her into custody. The state is recommending for count 1, 12 months to serve 90 days, the balance to be probated, for the defendant to take family violence intervention program, and no contact with the victim. Count 2 would merge. And I know that I saw the victim on Zoom earlier, but I don't see her. Okay, I'm sorry. My victim advocacy, she's trying to log back on. So I think she wants to speak, Your Honor. She was here earlier. I did see her.
I saw her.
Okay.
All right, Ms. Hahn, so with the frequency of Ms. Mayo's visits to the county jail, I'm starting to be concerned that there's a mental health component that that she hasn't been evaluated for, because she seems out of control.
Your Honor, I don't have any concerns about competency. However, I'm not sure if there are other mental health struggles that she's having. But I mean, as far as our communication and her understanding, there are no concerns, but I can understand Your Honor's concerned about other things that may be going on. I will say, Your Honor, for the record, that Ms. Mayo and I have talked, and she's struggling. She has been struggling with housing. There's been some issues with relationship, and just having a consistent place to stay and somewhere safe.
How old is Ms. Mayo?
Ms. Mayo is 24. But I believe that that's been something that has contributed to her coming before you in the amount of times that she has.
Has she completed high school?
No, Your Honor.
Is there was she unable to do it, or what happened?
I left brick and mortar, or however you're supposed to pronounce it. I left that due to me not really fitting in, bullying and whatnot. I left that, and then I started homeschooling myself, where I begged my parents to put me into a homeschool situation. At some point, there was a family violence situation way back in 2016, and I had to move out with my boyfriend at the time. And it was either go to school or get a job. So I got a job, and I never finished school. I'm currently, or I was within the past year, attempting to get my GED, but my parents like to put me out. My daddy like to put me out when it feels like it. So here we are again, unfortunately.
Okay. So Miss Mayo, when you get out, what's the option for housing? Let's talk.
Okay, so within my time being here, I've received paperwork for shelters and whatnot, just until I get on my feet with a job.
Yes, ma'am.
Can provide myself with my own living situation. If I was to be released within like the week or whatever the case may be, or whenever it is that I am released, I have a house that I can go to. He's not my boyfriend, but he's a friend of mine. I can go to his house for a little bit, but I can't stay due to the fact that it's not his house. But that's somewhere for me to go while I figure out where I'm going, or figuring out which one of these shelters is going to be the best one for me to attend at the time.
And Your Honor, that's the conversation that I had with Miss Mayo, is that she doesn't have stable housing. She doesn't have people that she can rely on. And considering the fact that she's going to be sentenced to probation and family violence, that was my concern that I wanted to bring up to Ms. Janvier. I'm concerned that having to have a stable address and then also having to attend a 6-month course that costs $600 is going to be very difficult for Miss Mayo. The alternative, however, would be for her to sit in jail and wait until either I could file a motion to have her bond reevaluated, or to potentially, raise other issues within the case. She decided that the best option for her would be to enter a plea of guilty in hopes that the jail would give her 2-for-1 and that she would be released. But that plea of guilty comes with a probation and an FVIP. And she's concerned about her ability to pay. I did look up in the statute, and it does say that FVIP can be, if the defendant is indigent, that the FVIP should be paid on a sliding scale. And that was kind of all I was able to come up with as far as things that would help her at this point in time. But Miss Mayo is one of my clients that I'm concerned about more than I think others.
Miss Mayo, when will you be 25?
Next year on the 10th of January.
Okay, perfect. So Covenant House in Georgia has services for youth 18 to 24. It has a crisis shelter, and then it has other programs and services to kind of help you get on your feet. It has support services. It can kind of give you information about other things. It has an educational program that might help you get your GED. So Covenant House is in Atlanta. It's so that information, Miss Han, if you could just look that up, it's Covenant House, Georgia, and they have an address in Atlanta on Johnson Road. And let's see if we can get her to a place like Covenant House, or if you find someplace else that's closer. Because Miss Mayo, I recognize that this is not just a family violence issue. There's some underlying issues that you're kind of in a cycle. And until we get you out of that cycle, you're going to keep coming back here. But in the absence of any kind of mental health issues, I think you're kind of stuck because it's hard to get a job if you haven't finished high school. It's hard to finish high school if you don't have family support that's going to make that possible. If you got parents who are like every 5 minutes, they're kicking you out of the house and there's no stability, then that becomes an issue. Miss Mayo, Josephine Mayo.
Yes.
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 What, may I see you, please? I don't see your video. Do you see anything that says more? There you are. Okay,
Oh, you
stop
see me?
touching stuff because I can see you. Stop touching stuff.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Okay, ma'am. So what's going on, Miss Mayo? Because Miss Latia, she's here a lot, and kind of put your face in the, because you're looking down on the video screen. Can you pick it up? There you are. So what's going on? She's 24 years old, didn't finish high school. Every time she turns around, it's some kind of issue, and I got to figure out why this child is in the streets instead of stable.
She's got a lot of issues, and very disrespectful, and just a lot of things must be going on in her head, and
Okay,
she
well,
does want to
ma'am.
take her medicine.
Okay,
And-
so this is what we're getting at. Has she been diagnosed with an illness?
Yes.
Okay, what
Yeah.
illness?
She didn't tell us what it was, because we sent her. All I know is bipolar and who knows what else.
Okay.
A couple of them. So. And she's got plenty of support with us, like she was having a problem before, and I said, well, come here and forget
So
that guy or whatever,
are you her mom?
I'm her foster mom. I adopted her.
Okay. And so how old was she when you got her?
3.
Okay. And she's lived with you from the time she was 3 until
until about 16, and then she went out on her own and lived with her sister, and till her sister put her out, and then she went with some guy that she knew, and Minneapolis or someplace they went, and she called me up, and by the time she called me up, she was like 20, 21, 22, something like that. And she called me and asked if she could come home, and I said, sure. So she got herself together, she came home, and she was fine for a while, and then all of a sudden.
Nobody puts her out. She disrespects the police, and the police arrest her for obstruction of officer. And she's very, 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 she cusses us out all the time. And we gave her the best home. She has everything, her own room, TV, everything. And she disrespects us. And then she goes out when she wants to go out. She hangs out with these guys, smoking marijuana and doing other things. And she's very disrespectful. We can't take it no more. We're
I
both
got you.
citizens.
Yeah.
I
too
knew
old
there
for
was
this.
something else. Yeah. So family violence intervention is not what we need in this case. I need Ms. Mayo to have a mental health eval and then to follow whatever her medication management is.
Mhm.
Okay. Yes.
She
And
does, but
I need her to
does,
have
but
a
she
mental
doesn't-
health
she
eval
does, she
in the
doesn't-
jail.
Say what?
I'm just talking to her attorney.
Your
Oh,
Honor,
okay.
So there's, I think, a 90-day hold, my understanding, and I can
She said, I
confirm
keep
that
picking
on
on
mental
it.
health evaluations. If she's ordered to have an in custody evaluation, that's gonna, I believe, hold her much longer than her sentence.
Well, if she has no resources and she has issues once she's out, then if I order one under probation, she's not gonna do that either.
Your Honor,
So she stood here and told us that she had no issues. But this kind of behavior is indicative of some kind of mental health issue and this kind of track record. And so I'm gonna listen to her, but at some point I got to figure out what the issue is that keeps bringing her back here.
Your Honor,
Because Ms. Mayo she doesn't have a cognitive issue. She's extremely intelligent. The problem is that there's something with impulse control.
She is very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Your Honor, so my understanding, Your Honor, can I have just a moment to speak with Ms.
Sure.
Mayo?
Talk to Miss Mayo and let's see. So, Miss Josephine, thank you. Because a lot of people who have mental health issues, they're ashamed of them and won't say it, or won't take their medicine because they don't feel like they should have them. Well, I view that a little differently. For me, a medical issue is a medical issue, whether you have a mental health issue or whether you have diabetes or whether you have high blood pressure. If you stop taking your medicine, the outcome will not be good. And so I try and encourage people to think of it that way. Whatever situation you are in, if medicine is what is required to give you a good life, then you got to keep taking the medicine. Miss Mayo?
Yes.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry, Miss Letitia.
No.
Ma'am,
So ma'am, are you currently seeing a doctor for your for medication management?
I go to the Clayton Center and I get a prescription from the Clayton Center.
Okay. Have you ever been followed by the Grady team, like the Grady Act team?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay. I got you. So when you go to Clayton Center, do they give you pills or do they give you a prescription for pills or a shot?
I have a prescription for pills.
And where do you get them filled?
The CVS.
Do you have so you're not working, you're having homelessness issues, like who provides the money for the medicine?
My insurance pays for them.
Okay, so you don't have any problem. You have your insurance card and everything.
Well, yeah, sure. I don't know. I don't know when I came home the last time, when you sent me home the last time, I'm not trying to tell on nobody. But when I came home the last time, everything in my room was missing, right down to the fire stick. Like, I don't know what's there. I don't know where anything is at.
Nobody touched anything.
No.
Okay. All right. Who is your insurance through?
I think it's Cigna, and if it's not Cigna, then I have Care Stores. Care Stores might have been paying for it too. It's okay. So I feel like you have an understanding that I don't have a job, or I can't, or like. It's not okay. It's that I don't have a job since I've been locked up. You released me on the 21st, and I was put back in jail on the 23rd. Me having a job, me getting a job, you don't really care to know. But I have a money bag tattooed on my arm. Me getting a job is not a problem. I've never had an issue with getting a job. My parents know this. I put food in the house. I get the food stamps, and I make sure that our household is not starving. Because there have been days where we didn't have anything to eat, and I'm in my room 10 seconds from death because we're just that hungry.
So, Ms. Mayo, I don't doubt that you can get a job. Like I said, you're extremely intelligent. That's not the issue. The issue is there seems to be something that keeps bringing you back to jail. And if it's that you can't live with Mr. and Mrs. Mayo anymore, because I personally believe grown people should be on their own. If you are 18 and above, unless you're going to school or working and contributing to the household and living under your parents' rules, I really don't think grown people should live with other grown people. I think that once you hit 18, you got three choices. You can work, you can go to the military, or you can go to school, but staying in your parents' house is not going to be a comfortable situation. So with that being said, what I'm saying to you is, like you said, I just released you and now you're back again. And so the issue is, why are you back?
We failed to mention, or the police report failed to mention, that there was a bowl of collard greens thrown on me, which started the whole altercation. I don't like to tell people, okay. So I was made under the impression a couple years ago by other family members that my father, I'm gonna lay it all out because I don't plan on going back home. I don't have it in me. Just like they say they don't have it in them, I don't have it in me. But I'm under the impression that my father is not even under the impression, he's verbally abusive to my mother. So if he's physically abusive when we're not paying attention, I don't know nothing about that, but we're under that impression too, right? I've been by his biological daughter. I'm adopted. He has two daughters older than me. That's been something that Ayana has said to me, something that other people have said to me. right? So I'm under the impression that not only is that something that goes on, so I don't say too much or I try to stay out of the way, but my parents, as they've already stated, are elderly. They're senior citizens. My father is a double, triple amputee. I love my parents like they're the only parents that I have. So when it comes down to leaving or getting put out or going somewhere, it's like, okay, so what happens if something happens to y'all? Who do I have? And I already don't have.
I got you, Miss Mayo, but this is what I say. You're 24 years old.
That's fine.
I say that you can, at the point where we become adults and we separate from our parents, we do that out of necessity, because otherwise there becomes a challenge to who's running the house. And grown people don't want other grown people telling them what to do. And so that's why when somebody gets of a mature age and it's time to leave, they go out and establish themselves separately so that you can still support your parents from another household. But they're going to have their own rules. They're going to have their own way of doing things in their house. You can't regulate that. That is not your fight. What I do say is you got to get yourself on your feet. So I suggest Covenant House because they have all kinds of wraparound services, including services that would help you stay compliant with your medication and to help you complete your education. But ma'am, this is not your fight. You can't keep going back there and thinking that you're going to fix things in the Mayo household. They're good and grown. They got gray hair. So obviously, however long they've been together, they have worked it out between themselves. That's not your fight. Your fight is get stable, get housing, get a job, get education. Those are the 4 things that you need to worry about. So instead of a family violence intervention, I would suggest that you maintain your relationship with the Clayton Center. You'll be under a medical management plan, and then you'll provide proof of complying with your medication schedule to the probation office after every other report. So not at each report, but every other report, you should have something that shows that you have gone to Clayton Center, you're compliant with your medication, and that you are taking care of yourself.
If I can say something.
Sure.
I don't report to them like that. I report to them with like, I have my prescription and that's all. I don't go back and forth to the Clayton Center. If anything, I'm going to have to go back now. So to make sure that like I'm still in good standing with the doctor, but I don't report it on a weekly basis or I don't.
Okay. Well, then when you go get your refills, then you'll report to probation that you've gotten your medicine refilled.
Okay.
All right. Miss Mayo, the issue is you way too smart to be languishing between homelessness and jail. You're brilliant. And I can hear it in the way you speak, but what you're missing is stability and education. You know, there's nothing wrong with you upstairs. Everybody has something. And I say this all the time. If somebody has a medical condition and it's diabetes or high blood pressure, if they stop taking their medicine, they're going to fall off the deep end. If you stop taking your medicine, you're going to fall off the deep end. But as long as you're taking it, there's nothing wrong with you. But we got to get you stable. Now, Covenant House is one of the best places because, like I said, you still have some time for them to help you, and they have the kinds of services that can help you get back on track as far as education. You don't have any problems getting a job because you can talk. Anybody who can speak intelligently can get a job. I don't worry about that. What I worry about is your impulse control and the fact that you keep having interactions with the police that are negative. I want that to stop. You feel me?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so I don't worry about your intelligence or any of that. I don't worry about your ability to get a job, but I want you to stop thinking for the now, from day to day, and I want you to have a plan for the future. Because I can't keep putting you back and forth in jail. That's not helping you. Who is that helping?
Nobody.
That is not helping anybody. So, Ms. Hahn, Covenant House is what I suggest just based on what I looked up. But if there are any other resources that the chaplain may have, Ms. Mayo, or that you all know about through your office that could assist her, because that age thing, there are some services that are for youth, then there's this big gap, and then other services are generally for families and then seniors. And so I want to get her some help before she ages out of what's available.
Yes, Your Honor. I've written down the information for Covenant House for her, but I will also give them a call.
Okay, thank you so much. And so, Ms. Mayo, I'm going to accept your plea of guilty to count 1, count 2 will merge. I'll sentence you to 12 months to serve 90 days balance probated for you to maintain your medicine management through the Clayton Center. You'll report each time you refill your medicine. You'll show proof of that to probation. You're to have no contact with the Miss Josephine Mayo and her husband at 9862 Braxley Way, Jonesboro, Georgia. And Miss Hahn, if you are able to find a program that can help Miss Mayo and maybe provide her more services, then I'd be willing to release her to that program based on, our evaluation of it.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Miss Mayo, get whatever services that the chaplain can give you, consider those, think about how they can help you, because I don't want you back and forth in jail. I want you to have a good life. All right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, and I believe it may be understood, but Miss Mayo also has things at her parents' house that she's going to need to get.
Okay, so I'll provide Ms. Mayo one opportunity to go back with the sheriff's office to make an appointment. Ms. Mayo, Mrs. Mayo, Mr. Mayo, the sheriff's office will contact you about making an appointment for Ms. Mayo to get just her personal items and things that she'll need to, live and work and those kinds of things. And so they'll make that appointment, and then she'll be able to get those things once she's stable. So if you'll just leave them where they are, and she can come in and pick them up with the sheriff, who will maintain the peace. Okay. All right. I'll put that'll be put in the order.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. And Miss Mayo, unmute so I can hear. Miss Mayo.
Yes, ma'am.
I want a better life for you, and I want you to want that. I want you to tell yourself every day, I am worthy of a better life, and this is what I want. And then I want you to choose what you want your life to look like. And I want you to say it to yourself every single day. Do you hear me? Words have power. Words have power. And if you choose what you want your life to look like, you start saying that to yourself every single day. You hear me?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right.